Welcome to our very first edition of Advisors Corner. My name is John Roller, and joining me today is our President and Chief Financial Advisor, Winston P. Stevenson. Winston, welcome.
Well, thank you, John.
Well, Winston, let me just first off tell a little bit about how we met, and then we can go into how this all came to be.
Okay.
Winston and I met way back in 1985 in Mesa, Arizona. Winston had moved out here from Buffalo, New York. I was a young man working as a news radio reporter here in town, and he happened to hear me on the radio, and our paths crossed, and we started talking, and the rest, they say, is history. And let's see, about 13 years later, Winston and I, our friendship continued. Our families started to grow up together. I decided to get my license and help Winston out with his company. So in 1998, when Winston decided to create Winston and Companies, we literally started out of the garage.
Right, on Walt Ann over up in North Phoenix, over by the Horizon High School.
And I remember when we put in 2 phone lines in the garage, we thought we were in tall cotton.
Oh, man. And I fell through the roof through the ceiling trying to string wires along. So we've been around for a little while. We're not real new at this. And, I thought, what better guy to host our Advisors Corner than the news anchor man on KTAR radio on the weekends. And John's been pretty well established in the local media here for as long as I've known him. And so we have quite a team here. My son is working in the company now, Shane, and my wife, Millie, works in the company, and we have a full staff, back office staff in Topeka, Kansas.
Yes, we even have a mascot.
That's right. That's right. So take it away, John, and let's kind of talk about.
Well, as with most shows, we have to kind of establish what the show is all about. And here on Advisors Corner, we were talking today and we said, what should our first show be about? And so we came up with the idea of how did we come up with the logo? And the very first thing I'd like to point your attention to is the airplane above Winston and Companies. How did we come up with the airplane?
Well, the airplane goes back to a situation that I am a pilot. I've been a pilot since 1985, learned to fly out at Falcon Field in Mesa, Arizona, took my private pilot's actual test out at Goodyear Airport, Litchfield Goodyear Airport, and went on to ascertain my instrument rating. And I've been flying here and there and everywhere for quite a time. Maybe one of my greatest solo flights in the early days was flying from Phoenix Deer Valley Airport clear back to Buffalo, New York, in a single-engine Beechcraft Bonanza that had no autopilot, and I flew the thing all the way. And so aviation's been in my blood for a long time. The logo, though, is an interesting story. One of my clients he owns a very successful business here in the Valley, and I got a telephone call one day, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" And I said, well, I'm working. What's on your mind? He says, "Can you get out to San Antonio?" And I said, what's going on in San Antonio? He says, "Well, I'm looking to buy a jet for our company, and I would love it if you would fly out and fly the thing back with us." And so I checked my schedule. It was fairly clear. There was a flight real quick. I could get on a flight real soon out to San Antonio. And I flew out. And I met my client, and we climbed aboard a jet. We'll have pictures of that posted on the website. Mm-hmm. And we flew back from San Antonio at 44,000 feet, which is something I'd never done because that's the maximum height that this plane could fly at. And we were literally looking down on FedEx jets and airliners because they fly in the mid 35,000 foot range. So it was a really neat flying experience, and I'm very thankful. And so when we were deciding on a logo, did we want to do a logo of the single engine variety plane that I fly so often, or do we want to look at something kind of more towards the future? And I had just had that experience in flying the right seat on this beautiful brand new private jet. And I said, let's go for the let's go for the fancy one, the newer one, the forward looking, the future.
Course. Yeah.
And the logo was born. That's how the plane was picked anyways.
And so we picked the plane, and one of the things that sets Winston apart from other financial advisors here in Arizona and in a lot of places is he is a pilot. And when you're a pilot, you develop a flight plan.
That's right. Every plan or every flight that we go out on, cross-country flights. I mean, if we're just flying around the pattern doing touch and goes or something, we generally won't have a flight plan. But on a cross-country flight, there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and it's called a flight plan. And so what a flight plan is ultimately designed to do is to mitigate negative circumstances that would prohibit the flight's safe conclusion. So in a flight plan, I was filling out one day, and I said, this is literally what we need to be doing for our clients. It's saying we're going from here to here and determining how we're going to get there safely. And just like with our clients, they begin in their working years as savers, accumulators, people that are investors. And then one day, in order to get to their ultimate destination, which is retirement and beyond, we have to make sure that we have the pieces of the puzzle in place. And so the flight plan was born.
And another important part of a flight plan is if things don't go the way you planned when wheels up and you're headed out,
right,
and you need to make changes.
Right. Well, one of the greatest examples I can point to is the Southwest Airlines disaster that took place about 2-3 years ago when the plane took off and there was a failure in the portside engine, and it literally threw a piece of shrapnel through one of the windows.
Yeah, I remember that.
And one of the women passengers on board the plane, fortunately, she was strapped in, but it didn't save her. She was effectively drawn out of the window at altitude due to rapid decompression. And the fact of the matter was that was a tragic situation, but the pilot was given a lot of accolades, kind of as a hero, and the pilot was a woman. And rightfully so, she was very humble. That's something that you'll see in a lot of the pilot circles. They can be very confident people, but very humble people at the same time. And the flight plan that was in place at the time had an alternate field, and she simply diverted as per the flight plan and landed that plane. And she kind of disavowed any heroism or being a superstar hero for that, because she just did what she was trained to do and what the flight plan called for.
And so we developed a saying here that we
hope for the best, but we plan for the worst.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We hope for the best, but we plan for the worst.
So that is kind of a story about how the jet came to be, but I want you to look and notice the 5 stars above the jet. And I'm going to turn it over to Winston, because each of those stars means something. What do they mean?
Well, right above the airplane, just kind of in the field of the sky, right? If you look up at the sky at night and you see a plane fly by, you see the plane, you see the twinkling lights, but you also see the stars in the background. And we came up with the theme of having the 5 stars in the sky above the plane from left to right. And each star represents one of the 5 major areas of retirement planning.
Do you want to go to the telestrator?
Well, we can go to the telestrator if we will. I'm going to just bring the mouse over here, and we will point out to you that the first star right here represents income planning, because AARP came up with a survey in 2019, and it said the majority of American retirees' fears is the fear of outliving their money, outliving their income. And so we decided to position the first star above the plane as the income star. This is income planning. It's a major part of what we do in the flight plan for our clients here at Winston and Companies. The second star is the star that is about investment planning. We recently, in 2017, so it's not so recent, but it's been a few years, we secured the Series 65 license and became a investment advisor representative with Brookstone Capital Management as our registered investment advisory. And so we entered into a new frontier at that time where we became fully licensed, or what they call dual licensed, not only in insurance, but also in the investments. And we manage portfolios, and we've done a really good job for our clients. So again, we have income planning and investment planning. And it's really important that people understand the difference as they move into retirement between investing and creating income, guaranteed income. So we have to find the right mix between the two.
And we do a lot of workshops around town, and you've been asked this question numerous times. Are you a fiduciary?
Yes, actually we are. We're a fiduciary. Brookstone Capital Management, as I mentioned, is our registered investment advisory firm. We use TD Ameritrade Institutional. And I want to point out that TD Ameritrade Institutional is currently in the process of transitioning ownership over to Charles Schwab. So by the time some people may see this video, that may have happened or not, but Schwab will become the custodian. And what custodian means is they're the people that actually have the money in their coffers, okay? Brookstone and our office do the interaction with the client and the investment management.
Okay. Talk to me about the third star.
Right above, directly above the aircraft, you'll see star number 3. We'll paint that one blue. And that star represents tax planning. Now, we're not tax specialists. We're not income tax. We're not CPAs. But we do talk about taxes in retirement with a lot of our clients, because so many clients come to us and the majority or the preponderance of their funds are located in a qualified retirement plan. You know, the likes of which I'm talking about, 401ks. IRAs, 401ks. And sometimes people come in our office, you know, kind of in a fog. They know they have an IRA, they know they have a 401k, but they don't really know how to utilize those in the form of income. Well, with the recent news evolutions about our rising and soaring deficit and the COVID-19 situation and the bailouts, if you will, or the incentivizations, the sudden influx of money, everybody's suddenly getting $1,200 in the mail, or the Paycheck Protection Plan, and all this money is going out. Again, we hope for the best here, but if we don't take a look at tax-wise investments, then we're really not doing a very good job. So under the star, right above the plane, a cornerstone of our practice is tax planning. And we look at it through two lenses. We look at it through the lens, number one, of the micro lens, where planning in the micro lens tends to lead to the purchase of IRAs and that sort of plan, because an accountant or a tax advisor may say to a client, get the most deductions that you can this year. Make that contribution to that IRA this year. And they use the word save. You're going to save on taxes. But we challenge that, and we've challenged that many times, where it's really not a savings, but rather it's a deferral. And so people who take advantage of micro tax planning tend to buy products that lead to tax deferral. And the problem with tax deferral is it defers the taxes, but it also defers the tax calculation. So let that one run through your mind real slowly. And if you think taxes in the future, well, let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen with taxes in the future? Do you think they're about to stay the same, go down, or probably go up?
Well, being a newsman and seeing the stimulus and the multiple stimulus packages that has gone through recently, I got to believe taxes are going to go up, and go up rather significantly.
That's consistent with our theme of hoping for the best, but planning for the worst. And one of the things that I want to share with you is a book that we are promoting, which is the No Compromise Retirement Plan. And it was written by Marty Ruby, who is not an accountant, but rather he is an actuary. And it's a very interesting take on the three major compromises in retirement planning. One of the major ones is the amount of money that goes into your pocket in retirement versus the amount of money that goes into the IRS's pockets.
Right.
And if you'll notice something we're pretty proud of, I was actually offered the opportunity by Marty Ruby to write the foreword to this book.
Right.
So we always have these books available, and we love to give them out to our clients because it really talks a lot about tax planning.
Yeah, and you'll notice that if you go to our website, winstonp.com, we can get you that book by contacting us either via email or our phone number, 602-456-1928. The 4-star.
The 4th star, as we go on, so we have income planning, we have investment planning, we have tax planning, and one of our favorites, which actually you're heading up the department on,
I am.
is our health insurance department. Now, please understand, we're not talking about health insurance for young families, to cover if you got to go to the doctor. But what we talk about in our client base, when we refer to health planning, we're really referring to things like Medicare planning and long-term care planning. Okay, so the 4th star in the sky above the plane is healthcare planning, Medicare planning, and long-term care planning. It is one of the most significant risks to a senior or a retiree's portfolio.
Right. And a lot of people don't consider that that's a part of the overall plan, but it really is.
Right. We had a woman come into one of our seminars up at the Burton Bar Public Library, and she said she was just there to get Medicare insurance, Medicare supplement insurance. And she came down to our office because we're just up the street from the Burton Bar Library. We're located right downtown Central Phoenix on 2400 North Central, right across from Durant's Steakhouse. And the thing she told us when she came in, she said, I'm here just to get a Medicare supplement. I don't want to talk about a bunch of other financial stuff. She goes, I already have a financial advisor. And we said, well, that's interesting. Who is your financial advisor? And it was somebody that we didn't know. But the point being, I then said, well, why didn't your other financial advisor take care of your Medicare? And she goes, oh, he doesn't know anything about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I then asked to see her written retirement plan.
Her flight plan.
She didn't have that either. So the thing is this, we look upon healthcare planning, Medicare supplements. We look at the entire picture. Long-term care planning is a part of a comprehensive plan. So that's the 4th star in the sky.
And move on to the 5th star, which is?
The 5th star, which you're going to find located right down here, is the star about legacy planning. Okay, legacy planning is something that is really interesting to me. We work with a law firm known as the Estate and Trust Law Group, or Perkins and Zayed. Mark Perkins and Dean Zayed are the founders or attorneys, and they have a staff, a wonderful staff, with which we work with Jennifer and Courtney. They're our attorneys that work for our clients here in Arizona and California. And the thing that is so surprising is that there are so many people out there that do not have a will or a proper trust in place. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from.
We've had doctors, attorneys.
You could have somebody that's, well, actually, we just wrote a will for a client this morning, and he doesn't own a house. He's a great man. He's by himself. He doesn't want to own a home. He keeps his affairs very simple, but he did want to make sure that he took care of his sister and brother when he was gone. So in the absence of a will, we suggested that he do one, and we got that for him. On the other hand, from that range to some doctors and some very wealthy people that we've worked with here in the Valley, lawyers and the like, construction people, they don't have anything.
Oh, they have everything in place but that.
Right.
And you always refer to leaving the back door open.
Right. So one of the things that happens is that people, they'll buy life insurance, they'll buy long-term care insurance, or they'll buy a will or a living trust and not have any life insurance or long-term care. It's kind of one or the other. We see it oftentimes. But the whole idea behind a trust, the number one reason that you have a trust is because you love somebody and you care, and you don't want after you're gone for them to say, gosh darn it, why did they take care of business? They were so successful in life. And you're in the media. You could probably roll off a few names of people that you reported on that passed away without any. Give the folks an example.
Let's see. Let's start off with, most of you probably have heard Prince. Prince died without a will. Aretha Franklin died without a will. Deep voice singer Barry White died without a will. I'm a big Miami Dolphin fan. I was grew up in Joe Robbie, who was an attorney, died with all the paperwork on his couch.
Yeah.
Never had a will.
Joe Robbie was the owner of the Miami Dolphins, in which case the family lost the ownership of the Miami Dolphins to the auto magnate Wayne Huizenga.
And they haven't been in the playoffs since.
That's right. Elvis Presley
died
without, and Graceland was started as a program. So the list goes on and on, okay? Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, if you have over $75,000 in assets and over $100,000 in real estate, we're going to recommend to you, if you're working with us, that you establish a living trust. And its primary purpose is the avoidance of something called probate. Mm-hmm. If you have a will in place, a will is a guarantee of probate. Okay? Probate is not a friendly process to the heirs.
Right. Authenticating the will.
Authenticating the will. And so what happens is that we really talk with our clients. We get to know them. We get to know what's going on in their lives, who's important to them in their lives. After they're gone, who do they want to benefit? Mm-hmm. And so the fifth star is that of legacy planning, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and the like. So there you have it. Those are the 5 main areas. And do you know that we see a lot of clients come in here, UBS, Fidelity Investments, Morgan Stanley, Raymond James, mm-hmm. Edward Jones. And they're like, they don't have everything put together. My investments are with my Edward Jones guy. But he doesn't do trusts. Mm-hmm. So he sends them to somebody else. My lawyer that does, maybe they do have a trust, but they don't have good estate planning because they didn't handle things, they left the back door open. They didn't have long-term care. Think about this a second. If you do have a living trust, A, is it current? B, if it's not current and you don't have long-term care in place, well, there might be nothing left of your estate to pass on through your trust. That's what I mean by leaving the back door open. Right. So that's how the logo was formed. Winston & Company's Retirement and Financial Services, a duly licensed fiduciary company.
We are going to have more episodes of Advisors Corner. We are so glad you joined us today. Hope you got to learn a little bit more about our company, what we do, and we try not to be boring, right?
Hey, speaking of which, can I have a sip now of my root beer float?
It's like 111
because
outside.
It's 111 degrees out, and we went next door to Lenny's, and I've had this float sitting here looking at me through this whole interview. So I'm going to finish it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you'll tune in. We're going to use the Advisors Corner to kind of take the place of the lunch and learns and the dessert and learns. And we think you're going to enjoy it. So thanks again for tuning in.
Thank you.
All right.